Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vicky DeRosa, and welcome to All About Health. This afternoon, I am here with Neil Pinkman. Welcome, Neil.
Thank you.
Neil is a business coach these days. He has been an entrepreneur his whole life, and he is the owner of Paradigm Associates. They do business coaching for individuals and corporations. But what we are here mostly about, and what I'm very interested in, is Neil used to have a wellness center for many years, I think 8 or 10 years.
About that, right.
So I invited Neil to come and talk about his wellness center, to talk about how important meditation, breathing, currently employees suffer from so many things in corporations, stress, addictions to smoking, all of those things can be helped by meditation, just the simple art of learning how to breathe properly. So give us a little bit of information about yourself, Neil.
Okay. Well, yes, I did own and operated, directed the Dharma Center for Healing Arts. It was located in Westfield, New Jersey. And we had a sort of a vast array of different treatments, different help programs for people, all the way from general massage to reflexology. We had a psychotherapist working out of there, a Chinese herbalist. We had a program that was for cancer patients. We saw had an acupuncturist. So we had had a doula working out of there. We had a prenatal program. Saw a lot of different people come in for a lot of different treatments. What you said is so important about stress and about meditation and relaxation, because I think the question I would get all the time, the one question that people would always ask me, since there were so many different things, when somebody came in, they were like, well, what do you recommend? Where do you think I should start with all this? And everybody would say, well, what's your favorite? And I mean, it's hard to have a favorite because different situations require different approaches.
Sure.
But my answer universally would always be, my favorite is meditation.
Okay.
And the reason is that meditation, when I teach somebody meditation, they have a tool that they can use for the rest of their life to change their life at any time. A lot of other modalities, what they'll do is they will help people relieve the symptoms, okay, and they do help them heal. Meditation is something that you can use it forever, and you can really make any changes in your life. It's so powerful and yet so simple.
I wonder if you would mind if I shared something that I know about you with everyone.
I'm an open book.
Well, I know you had a quite a serious illness.
Yes.
And I wonder, I know we're not here to talk about that today, but I wonder if it's a great story, so I wonder if you would just talk for a couple minutes about
Sure.
that and how you actually got over it. I think it had a lot to do with meditation, am I right?
It had totally to do with
Okay.
meditation, because like most people, I didn't realize that I had a spiritual crisis until it manifested in a physical crisis. And one day I found myself sitting in a doctor's office being diagnosed with a crippling disease. At that point, and I have no idea why I did what I did, I found myself saying things that I didn't even know why I was saying them. But I looked at the doctor and I said, I can't have this. He said, well, you do have this. and you need to see a specialist. I go, no, 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 that's not what I mean. I can't have my life go this way.
Now, let me just ask you really quickly. Was this before you owned the wellness center?
Yes.
Oh, so it was before you owned the
Right.
wellness center. What was the name of the disease?
Scleroderma.
Can you explain what that is for everyone?
To put it in short, it's a tightening of the organs. The organs tighten, the skin tightens, the esophagus tightens, and it's a crippling disease.
And so the diagnosis is generally what?
Well, it took a long time to get a diagnosis and a lot of different tests, and there was a lot of blood work and a lot of different. I don't even recall, because this is going back 20 years at this point.
Okay.
Exactly what all that was.
And so did the doctors tell you there was a treatment at that time?
Well, they did tell me that I needed to go see a specialist, like I said, and for some strange reason, and this is the moment that I say basically Divine Spirit had me on my knees, hitting me in the back of the head with a 2x4, saying, "Do I have your attention now?"
That usually happens in everyone's life at some point, though, doesn't it?
Yes, and unfortunately, and this is the beautiful part about meditation, which we'll get to later, but unfortunately, we don't hear it until we're at that point. We don't hear the pain, and that's what stillness brings, is that greater awareness. But I got up and I walked out of the office, and he said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I don't know, but this isn't the answer." And I went out, I called a friend, and I said, "Hey, I'm really messed up here. I need some help. Do you know anybody who can help me?" And he recommended a therapist, and I hadn't done that before. And the therapist said to me, "You know what? If you learn to meditate, you won't need me or anything else."
Really?
And darn if she wasn't right. No wonder those people are so good.
So, that's interesting. So she didn't advise you to do a lot of therapy, or?
Oh no, there's still a lot of other issues.
Okay.
I became a huge fan of psychotherapy.
Okay.
And I think everybody needs I describe psychotherapy as going to graduate school in the
I
most
agree.
interesting subject I could find.
I agree. So, but she taught you about meditation too.
Well, she got me started.
Okay.
And she got me started in a way that a lot of people get started learning meditation. She started by showing me some breath work, giving me visualization processes to use, some guided meditations. From that, I just got more and more into it, started to look in and to study different types of techniques. I went to study with Deepak Chopra.
Oh, interesting.
And
that's phenomenal.
He was fantastic. And then I got into studying mindfulness meditation. And mindfulness meditation is what I introduce people to and help them get started with, because mindfulness meditation is just a fantastic way to reduce stress in our Western culture.
Can you expand on that a little bit? Mindfulness meditation, and what does that term mean, really?
Being mindful just being more aware.
Okay.
And what I like about and I really don't think that we should say meditation without saying meditation practice.
Okay.
Because it is a discipline.
Okay.
And if you do it regularly, you will develop a practice of mindfulness.
Okay.
And the great thing about a disciplined mindfulness, like sitting meditation practice, is that you develop the talent of being mindful all day in everything you do. And that's where there's an enormous amount of stress reduction. Sitting in stillness it's wonderful. I mean, it's fantastic. But how that carries out through the rest of your day, how it helps you at 1 o'clock in the afternoon at work or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that changes your whole life.
Give me an example.
Well, I think to get an example, you need to understand the process of sitting in a mindfulness meditation. And it's really pretty funny, because when I work with people on meditation, they'll say to me, "You know what, I tried this once. I sat and I said, I'm just going to sit and meditate, and I'm going to make my mind still, and I'm going to be quiet. Then I say, how did that work for you? And they go, it was awful because I sat down, I got still, and like 10,000 things ran into my mind. And I said, you know what? Before I only had 1,000 on my mind, so I think 1,000 is better than 10,000. I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I do is help people understand why 10,000 things come into your mind. But when the process of sitting, and again, this is we could do 3 hours
I know.
on this process. But the process, when you sit, yes, thoughts are going to come up. And if you think you're going to sit there and no thoughts are going to come up, then you're going to be very disappointed in what you're trying to do. The mantra in mindfulness meditation is the breath. Okay? And the breath is the mantra because there's nothing more present than the breath.
Okay.
I could say, Vicky, give me a few days without food. Give me a few days without water, and you'd probably still be hanging around. But give me a few minutes without breath, and we're not going very far. So meditation is anything you do with an awareness of the present moment.
Okay.
It's very present. So there's nothing more present than your breath. Now, as you're sitting and focusing on the breath,
or the breast.
Thoughts come up. So what you do is you need to honor those thoughts.
Okay.
All right? It's the concept of letting go, and you can't become attached to these thoughts because they're not going to go away. Unfortunately, our culture says if something hurts, if something's uncomfortable, take a pill, ignore it. Time heals everything. Don't just
focus
stay,
on it.
Stay
Yes.
busy. Don't focus on
Yes.
it. Well, in reality, and not to be too corny, you need to feel it to heal it.
Okay.
And so what ends up happening is we say, all right, that's painful. I don't want to deal with that. So we put that in the closet behind us. And then we shut the door. But it's never going away.
Okay.
And it's going to come back to get us all the time. It's a lot like if you can remember when your sons were little, when they're 3 or 4 years old, they come over and they'll stand alongside you whether you're having a conversation, no matter what you're doing, and be like, Mom, 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 and they'll do that forever, right?
Yeah.
Until you do what? Until you honor it and say, what do you want? Can I have a cookie? No, it's too close to supper time. And they go away. They'll be back. They always do. But everything in that closet that you've been putting in there for all those years is like those little kids. Until you honor it, they don't move on. Now, through a sitting meditation practice where you actually learn that process of honoring those thoughts, saying, wow, that's really important, thank you, and then letting them go and letting them move on.
Wait, well, let me interrupt you for a second. So you're saying honor the thoughts.
Right.
And then letting them go.
Mm-hmm.
So give me an example, just so that we, hopefully we help in some small way here today. What do you mean? There's some big issue that came up at work or at home or family, whatever, and you're bombarded with it. Give me an example of what one should do instantly through meditation to recover from the problem.
Well, to do it instantly is not necessarily realistic. But
well, let me ask you that. Let me share something that I do,
okay.
and you tell me. And,
great.
And it's a habit that I have, and I've had it as long as I can remember, Neil. I don't know if I just. I find myself doing this throughout the day, but I do it when there's an issue or when there's a dilemma or a problem. Or I take 3 deep breaths, and I don't know why that number with me is 3, but I take 3 deep breaths, and for some reason I just instantly feel better. I instantly feel better. I'm able to regain some calmness, a little bit of peace for a second, and focus a little bit clearer.
Well,
is that?
Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. Okay, one, if you focus on the breath, you're coming to the present moment, and you're thinking just about the breath. All right, it's not. We're exhausted all the time because we spend most of our time angry about the past and worried about the future. So
This is a really, really important point, and I don't want to lose it. We actually have to take a break for just a few minutes. So hold that thought, Neil. We will be right back with Neil Pinkman in just a couple of minutes. Thank you. Welcome back to All About Health. I'm Vicky DeRosa, here with Neil Pinkman. And unfortunately, I interrupted you for a break at a very interesting, we were talking about breathing, Neil.
Right, and we were getting to the point of, how is this effective? How do we honor things, let them move on, and how does that help us? And again, we don't have 3 hours to do this, but, the process is... Well, I'll explain it to you this way. In a class with Deepak Chopra, he said that if you have a thought that comes up while you're sitting in a meditation and you can identify what the feeling is, what the emotion is, let's say it's fear, because planning is fear. You're afraid you won't be ready for something, you're going to have a party, I need to buy plates and hats or whatever, and you're thinking about that thought comes up, and that's like, okay, that's fear. I'm afraid I won't be ready. And I didn't believe him. I was a skeptic, and he said, you know what, if you identify that emotion as fear, if you start repeating the word fear silently as a mantra, you won't repeat it more than 12 times, and that'll be gone, the thought will be gone, and you won't even know what it was. It'll pass on. And he was right. I mean, and it really does work.
Wait, so if, say I'm at work, and I have a meeting coming up, and I feel unprepared, if I repeat, which means I'm fearful, so I repeat fear, the word fear, 12 times?
Well, I think you could try that, but if I were you, I'd do some breath work. But,
okay.
But that's like alternate nostril breathing. There's a number of different types of breath work.
Actually, can we do that for a second? You showed me something one day, which I actually want you to know that I use these days. So I'm a good listener.
It works.
But I know we will look a little funny, but what is that breathing called that you showed me with the...
It's alternate nostril breathing.
Can you show everyone?
I can. I can also explain a little bit
Okay.
of how to use it quickly, because it is
Okay.
a great stress
Please.
reliever.
Please.
It is a basic form of meditation.
Okay.
And again, it brings you very present. And there's a lot, if anybody takes yoga or any other type of work like that, they'll teach you alternate nostril breathing. They don't necessarily tell you to use it this way, but it works exceptionally well. The breath pattern is simply to close off, say, your right nostril, inhale through the left, hold your breath, switch, exhale through the right, then inhale through the same nostril through the right, hold your breath, switch, exhale through the left, inhale through the left. So if you have a cold, this can kill you.
Wait, I'm legally blind. I can't tell if you're going to turn blue, okay?
I'm probably not blue, and if it is, it's just the camera. I often look blue on camera. But
all right, so I want you to know, I've actually, I listened to you when you told me about that. I've used that technique, and it is a great technique.
Well, it does.
Explain to everyone why that works so well, so quickly.
Well, there's two ways that it works. One, it just brings you very present. It's
Okay.
conscious breathing,
Okay.
and we all need to do conscious breathing, which we don't. We do unconscious breathing. Then the other part is, and this is something that at some point they were explaining on the Discovery Channel or one of those channels, the fact that it forces the brain to switch left, right, left, right, left, right. It's like hitting the human reset button.
Okay.
Okay. They say that if you park your car at a mall, you don't remember where it was. If you do this, you'll remember. So I tell people do this.
Oh, wait, if you do the breathing before. Oh, okay, I understand.
If you do it, you can't
Okay.
find your car.
All right, I understand.
I just say shop downtown. It's a lot easier. But what I tell people, do this before a big meeting. Do this before a big phone call. Do this between meetings. I did it before the show today, just so that it gets you centered, it gets you grounded, it brings you very present. It's something that I'll do if I have an appointment with somebody and I'm sitting out in the lobby. I do it. If people look at me funny, but people look at me funny anyway. It doesn't matter. So it's, that is a great technique. But conscious breathing, this is something I think we really should be teaching in schools from like the second grade, breath work, meditation, in order to get kids learning how to focus, how to be present, okay? It'll reduce stress incredibly. What I ask my clients to do is to take a whole pad of Post-it notes and write one simple question on it. Am I breathing? And you put it on the phone, you put it on the refrigerator, you put it on your dashboard, you put it on your computer. And the thing is that when you see it, before you pick up the phone, you need to answer that question. And that sounds silly, because if you weren't breathing, you're right, I would be blue and you'd be sitting here talking to an empty chair. Or, but here's what happens, and this is why it works, because we don't do conscious breathing, and that's why we're so tight all the time. When you look at that, if you answer it, you're going to go,
I just realized, yes.
Wow, I don't know if I was breathing.
Yeah.
Now obviously you were, but your technique of taking the 3 deep breaths, it brings you very present. This is just conscious breathing, okay? But what it also does is there's a lot of physiology to it too. It sends more oxygen to your muscles, to your brain, to your heart. It really helps the body. And we're living, short of oxygen and very tight and very stressed. So yeah, this is a great stress reduction. It works, and using the alternate nostril breathing, I have presidents of international companies walking around the hallways doing this, and they don't have a drug problem. So it's like.
Listen, I walk around doing that now. Let me ask you. This brings me to a point that I didn't want to forget to ask you about. People who suffer from panic attacks, anxiety, nerves, fearful people.
Right.
Are they? I would assume they don't breathe properly, because what happens? I'm thank goodness I don't have those issues, but I can imagine someone who is having a panic attack or someone who's very anxious has quick breaths. So that would even teaching just breathing to people who suffer from anxiety, would that not help them with the severity perhaps of the panic attacks?
Absolutely. Okay. And there's, when we say panic attacks, we most often mean the acute ones, that are very troubling to people, and that they have a lot of problems with. But as with everything, there's different levels. And while a lot of people don't suffer from the acute ones, there are situations where you do get nervous, you do get anxious, even though you're not, and the breath work will absolutely relieve that. I mean, it's a fabulous tool.
Okay.
It's a fabulous tool, and working this meditation, working what I was talking about before, the practice of mindfulness into your everyday. There's a lot of people. This is the meditation is getting to. I'll ask you the question like I ask other people: are you your thoughts?
Yes.
Well, I'm going to argue with you.
I didn't give the right answer?
I don't. Well, there is no right. There is no wrong. Breathe a little. Don't get so anxious. Now, I'm going to argue and say that you're not your thoughts. But would you agree with me that you are the product of your thoughts?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to say you're not your thoughts. Who you are is the thinker of the thought.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
But if you're not happy with the product of the thought,
okay.
You need to change the thought. Where do you go to change the thought? You need to get into the thinker of the thought, okay? And that is in the gap between the thoughts, and that is in stillness, all right? That's where you find the thinker of the thought. So this is why meditation is so powerful, that you get into what we call the role of the observer. So that most of us have a problem because we're making unconscious choices instead of conscious choices. All right, in this present moment. If we're making unconscious choices in the present moment, the next moment can't possibly turn out how we want it to go, and then we say, I got bad karma, I have bad luck. If we make conscious choices, all of a sudden, things are going good, everything's firing off right. So how do you, as Eckhart Tolle says, if it's the quality of our consciousness that determines the future, what is it that determines the quality of our consciousness? And it's our ability to be present. So that through a mindfulness practice, you stay present more often and you're making conscious choices moment by moment, and now you have your life going the way you want that life to go. So that is where you want to get in a mindfulness practice, so that as you go through the day, you're working from the role of the observer. Now, I have people that have said to me, I can't meditate because if I stop thinking, I'll die. And people really feel that way because they think they are their thoughts, and they're not.
Okay, I understand.
All right? So what we need to do is find a way to stay more present, more in the role of the observer, so that, listen, a lot of people also think that if you sit and meditate, you're going to be this dull person, that everything's going to be monotone and like peaceful, and it's quite the opposite. You come out of a meditation and
full of
rain
energy.
looks fabulous.
Okay.
Everything smells better, looks better. I mean, it's just become such a more sensual world. The meditation is extremely exciting. I mean, what it adds to your life is fabulous. And well, let's look at it this way. We have anger. We do get angry. We're given things like jealousy. We're given things like grief. All these things that we consider bad. Pain is a gift. But you can enjoy being angry if you're not attached to it. You see, in working this process, enables you, and this is how it pays off in the workplace incredibly, is that if somebody cuts you off on the way to work, you have a process for letting it go. You have a process so that you don't carry that with you and you're still upset and mad at everybody and unproductive at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. One time I was driving to work. I was going to work with a client, and I had so much stuff that I had to put in the car, and I left a bunch of materials that I needed on the grill outside by my car. And as I pulled into the client, I happened to be on the phone with my wife, and I got very upset. I think I may have even said a few bad words. And, she said, "What's the matter?" I said, "Well, this is the problem. I got to go back and get that. I need it. But they're waiting for me inside. I'm supposed to be starting now." And I turned around, I headed out of the parking lot, and she said, "Well, what just happened?" I said, "Well, what do you mean?" She goes, "Well, you're not angry anymore." I go, "Well, I know. The anger came and it went." And I had to go get the material, and I had to do it, but didn't have the anger going crazy. And it makes us so much happier and more productive.
On that note, this has been absolutely extraordinary. I thank you so much, Neil. I could
My
go on and
pleasure.
on and listen to you for hours. What I would like to say to everyone, if you are interested to learn more about meditation, and we are going to actually have Neil more involved in our studio and website. Our website happens to be www.studiovhealth.com. Please check it out. We have information like this and all sorts of very, very healthful information. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful day.